Thank you very much. I'm very honored to be here. This is Vern, one of two of my dogs, and we're going to talk about her in a little bit here. We believe she is, what's 7 plus 5? 12? Yeah, 12. It's been a long Monday. We believe she's about 12, and they had a photo up of me earlier with both of my dogs. The other dog is Vern. I adopted them together. Their names were Laverne and Shirley. And I said, I am not going to stand on the back door and yell, Laverne, Shirley, Shamil, Shamazel, right? No, it's not going to happen. I know I called your name, didn't I? They're very, very good. But so she's just Vern now. And Shirley is now Siki, S-I-H-K-I. Okay, so we're going to jump into this pretty quickly here. I'm trying to be mindful of time because I'm going to chase some squirrels, as we call it in our industry, where I sort of get lost. And my dear friend and coworker Don Foster is here to yell squirrel to bring me back into focus. So we're going to talk about the human-animal bond and really sort of why there's a human-animal bond and how well we're doing on our part of it. Because I think they're doing great on their part. I think there's a lot of it that we need to really talk about. So, you know, at one point, there was this crazy wolf, was hanging around, saw the campfire and thought, like, what's the worst that could happen? Okay, 15,000 years later, we know. We know. Are there any pug people in the room? Oh, good, because we're talking about pugs a lot. So at some point, there were wolves who weren't as scared of humans as others in the pack were. And as they came closer to the fire and started to make an attachment, they started serving a purpose. They hunted and they protected, and that was sort of their purpose. And then we know that for at least 15,000 years, animals have been dogs have been a part of people's lives. And we know that because in Bonn, Germany, back in 1914, workers found a gravesite that had a man, a woman, and animal bones. And it wasn't until the 70s that they realized the animal bones were not a wolf. It was actually, through testing, a Canis lupus familiaris, which is, of course, the domesticated dog. In the retelling, this is what that family looked like. I think there's a little bit of whitewashing on that, but the dog looks very wolf-like, but they actually recreated the dog. That's what they believe the dog looked like. You could see the wolf in it, but you can see sort of the changes that happen. Yeah. Oh, you need to share. Okay. You haven't missed too much for the Zoom folks, I promise. From Kurt, there we go. Yeah. All right. Yay. So these are what's called pariahs, right? The pariah dogs sit on the outskirts of civilization. They go to our dumps. They go to any number of places. There's actually a breed in India called the pariah dog. So these cave paintings are from Saudi Arabia, and they are about 8,000 years old. What's interesting about them is the dogs are on leashes. It's one of the first times in cave paintings where we saw dogs and saw on leashes. But if you look at the distinguished shape of the dogs, you see up ears, you see curved tail, you see a very lean body. And when you look at modern day pariah dogs, this is a pariah dog in India. It's what they look like, right? Sort of like, oh yeah, I sort of see that dog. So this is what's called a primitive breed in the animal world. Probably the most famous primitive breed pariah dogs are Australian dingoes, right? They're still run wild. They live wild in Australia. I really love this photo. I love this photo because this is an Australia dingo, and this is Laverne and Shirley when they were in a shelter. And you're going to start seeing a couple of things. When I showed this photo to Dawn, Dawn is just like, oh my God, when did you take that photo of Siki? And I'm like, that is not Siki. That is a current pariah dog in India. And this is my dog, Siki. So these dogs are called Carolina dogs. They are the only native dog in North America, and they are the oldest species of dog in North America. They traveled with humans, whether they came by a canoe or land bridge, which evidently is a discussion right now. This is in Arizona. They grew up wild. So for the first 5 years of her life, she was a pariah dog. She had zero interactions with humans. She didn't know from leashes. She didn't know from anything like that. And one of the things that still happens with her, even though she's been with me for 7 years now, if I drop a treat too close to me, hey, Vern, no, she didn't do this. She's like, thinks about it, moves around, doesn't go in right away. She's just a little bit leery about what's happening. Is she allowed to have that treat or not? So she sees it. No, she's not doing it. Okay, fine. Fine, I made all this up. I just made all this. It's like going to the mechanic and making that sound, right? That's never going to show up. She's a very good girl. I'm going to hand her off. Right? Right. Yeah, she's going to get her fill of treats. So what's really interesting is this dog lived in the wild, right? Both she and the other dog, who we think was about 3, we think she was 5 when she was trapped. She was caught in a trap because she was, basically getting into trash in communities, and people didn't want that to happen. This was a reservation called the Tohono O'odham tribe, which is in southwest Arizona. So she and Siki ended up in the Pima County Animal Shelter, where they identified them as a mix of Shepherd and Labrador, but we knew that they were Carolina dogs because I've had Carolina dogs for many years. So how did she go from being this wild dog to someone who's happy to see just about everyone? I didn't want to push my luck by trying to get 2 dogs to come today. My other dog, Siki, would not have enjoyed this. She would be guaranteed under that space, curled up, she doesn't like to go through narrow spaces. She would never walk between these 2 desks. If you've ever trapped a feral cat, you trap it once, you will never trap that cat again. These dogs are still very, very wary of being trapped. So she sees narrow spaces as a possible trap. 7 years later, right? She's still very, very leery of that. So what's in them that they can go from being, see a person run as fast as far as you can to someone who will go up to a person and say hello. And one of the easiest answers is oxytocin. Does anyone know what that is? They call it the love drug, the love hormone. It's secreted in milk, in the breast, and humans. It makes the baby bond much more faster to the mother because of oxytocin. It's this drug that it's like we see each other in very positive ways. When we're cuddling, we get a surge in this hormone, and it's the same in dogs. Absolutely the same in dogs. They have that, they get that surge when they hear their name, when they receive a treat. It really makes a difference, because this is true. We are all hot dogs. There's an interesting study where they actually taught Labrador retrievers to sit very, very still so they could go into an MRI machine while fully awake. And then they could do things like offer them a hot dog or call their name or give them affection. And the same centers, the reward centers that lit up for a hot dog, lit up when they heard your name. So we're hot dogs. To me, this is the most interesting thing, because I'm very knee-deep in some neurological issues, but Williams-Burren syndrome is a neurological issue. It's got a whole host of physical attributes that makes it very obvious when a child is born with this syndrome. But the emotional attribute is this outgoing, engaging personality. They love everybody. They are just so full of love. They're just love, love, love. But they also have attention deficit disorder, problems with anxiety, and some phobias, which to me describes a golden retriever. Because here's the thing, dogs have that gene. Dogs have the Williams-Burren genetic marker. And that's why dogs like goats. That's why dogs like, all of these other animals. And what's interesting is how much they love horses. And the studies are showing is they love horses for a couple reasons. If you look at the bodies, they are mimicking each other. Horses and dogs play the exact same way. They do that startled thing. That's what we call a play bow. Horses do that. They do fake nips. Horses do that. And what they found is with dogs and horses, they start doing what's called rapid facial mimicry. What the dog sees on the horse's face, he mimics. What the horse sees on the dog's face, he mimics. So it really gets down to this facial recognition, this facial thing. I mean, how many people have heard dogs look like they're humans or humans look like they're dogs, right? Right? There's a reason for that because we are selecting the animals we bring into our lives based on attributes that we possess ourselves. And we now know that because when they did the study in Japan, where here's a bunch of pictures of people, bunch of people's of dogs, match the two up. And the people were at 80% success match the person to the dog, just based on that. Now, when they covered the eyes of the dog or the eyes of the human or the mouth of the dog or the mouth of the human, it went down to about 50%. It was a crapshoot. But when they only showed the eyes, just the eyes of the humans and the eyes of the dogs, it went back up to 75%. And this is what it was. That was first, let's match them, 80%. If one is blocked out, 50%, 50%, 50%. Here, back up to 75%, just looking at the eyes. Because we are selecting these animals in our lives. I don't wear as much mascara as Bernie does, but it really is like looking in the mirror for these people. Because here's the other thing. This cuteness, I mean, how cute is this little poodle, right? Just how cute. It's hardwired into us very early on our age. Children as young as 3 show a preference for these big eyes, button nose, and round faces, right? I literally did a search for baby girl, pink bow, tongue sticking out, right? This showed up, Google it, this showed up in the same search. The same search. Boom, because I was looking, it's like, oh, yep, there it is, right? I told you I was going to talk about pugs. They have hormones and they have genetic disposition to want to love us. And we absolutely have, through the years, created breeds that make us love them more, right? So that's really what it is. It's really about this face, what's called the baby schema, where dogs' facial movements may have evolved in response to a human preference for childlike characteristics. The interesting word for me here is evolved. Dogs did not evolve to do this. We bred them to do this, right? We have been, especially Britain, have been choosing selectively to breed this with this, both for skill traits. You need a small hunter to go in a rat hole called a terrier, right? As well as facial expressions. I'm going to test you in a minute here. Because what breed do you think this is? Yeah, except this is what St. Bernards look like now. That's what they used to look like. Yeah. How about this? Don't answer. What? It's a Newfie. It's a Newfoundland. Except this is what we bred them to look like now. Right? And the challenge has become the bone structure. So when we talk about that human animal bond, and this is where I worry that we are not living up to our end, that we have so modified these animals to our preferences and our desires that we end up with oversized dogs, with bone problems, with health. I mean, what's the life expectancy of a Newfie? 8 to 10 years? Yeah. Life expectancy here, 15 to 16 years, right? Almost twice as much. The body just was not designed to handle this. Is why Chihuahuas have horrible teeth, right? Same number of teeth as a Newfoundland, not same amount of space. So they're just all crammed in. Well, what about cats? I don't want to leave out cats because we're talking about domesticated animals. The most interesting thing here is how little research has been done on cats. And there's an interesting New York Times article that talks about why don't we do more research on cats? And they went out to these animal researchers and they're like, well, they're cats. You know, we can't get them to hit the same reward centers as we do others, right? And they're still semi-domesticated. But the most interesting thing from a research standpoint is they are as close to what they were originally, where dogs are not remotely close to white, right? So, it's sort of the cradle of civilization, the Fertile Crescent, right, in the Mideast. It brought us, let's see, writing, the wheel, agriculture, irrigation, and cats. Because at the same time, they were doing all of this wheel and agriculture and they started storing grain, they attracted mice. And then suddenly there was this animal that was hunting the mice. And so they created this relationship to benefit man, and the cats got mice, right? But there are some, I love this. It comes with some myths, right? It comes with some myths on this here. A, cats can't be trained, and B, cats are not as affectionate as dogs. But I'm here to tell you, I did a lot of looking to find the research to back this up. But yeah, right? Clearly, cats can be trained, right? You just have to work at it. They're not as reward driven. They don't have either the genetic marker or the hormone that makes them bond quite as tightly as dogs. But they do have what's called security attachment. Security attachment is, it started with humans. You put the baby in a strange room or a strange environment. The baby starts to cry because it doesn't know where it's at. Their parent, their mother, their father walks in and picks up the baby. What does the baby do, right? 64% of the time, the baby calms down because they feel secure. They've got an attachment that's a security attachment with this human. The same is absolutely true of cats. Virtually the same attachment rate of cats in an environment, placed in an environment that's strange to them. They see that the cat's stressed, human walks in, picks up the cat. How quickly does the cat calm down? Same exact rate as with humans. So we know they have security attachment. But we also know that in Austria, when they did this study, they called it humans who are extroverted versus humans who are conscientious. In the adoption world, we call it the circus home or the library home, right? If you're looking for a cat, are you looking for a circus cat or a library cat? Because it's going to matter. So what this study found when they examined the distinct patterns of behaviors of cats living in these very two different households, that the tactile interactions and the attention, mutual attention, had to be negotiated. It was different in the home where the person was very extroverted than the first person of the home where they were very conscious. So the attachments were made, but they were different attachments, and they literally had to be negotiated. If you're a cat person, you're just going to say, duh, how much did that study cost? Because we've already known that. But when you look at behaviors of cats and how they attract and attach, it's very, very different from dogs. So how are we doing on this? Honoring of our commitment. We talked about our selective breeding, how dramatically that has changed dogs, not so much as it's changed cats. But I am going to go back to, does everyone know what breed this is? This is the original pug. This is what a pug used to look like. They used to have a nose. They used to be able to breathe, right? This is what we have turned them into, right? This is probably the most classic example of man's interference with nature in the animal world, to the point that the Royal Veterinary College says they barely qualify as a dog from a health standpoint anymore. Everything about them is so very different. The internal structures of their nasal passages, of their throat, of their circulatory system. These are not dogs that can take long walks on a hot day. They just cannot do it. And it really sort of brought up this issue of how far the pug has diverged. And again, they didn't evolve this way. This was us deciding we wanted that pug to look like a baby. And we kept breeding down and breeding down. You know, it's like when we have mini Aussies, or, you know, we keep looking at all of these new breeds, Labradoodles or Golden Doodles or Doodle Doodles, or, you know, all around, because we like the trait of this dog, hyperallergenic, and we love the low-key Labrador. So let's put those two together. In fact, the guy who first sort of introduced Labradoodles has gone on record saying he really wishes he had never done it, that he had never done it. Because when I was growing up, every dog was a Heinz 57 dog, right? It's just every dog was a mutt. It looked like a Border Collie, probably a Border Collie, could be something else in there. But so that's the bad news. The good news is we've done so much more for these animals. They're living longer lives. Cats in Japan went from an average life expectancy of 5 years in, what was that, 2000 or 1990, to 12 years in 2014. In the US, it's 15 to 16 years, but we routinely see cats now living to be 20 or even more, right? We've done better about providing better care for them. And specifically, who remembers Gravy Train? You know, I would like to know what it was that made the gravy when you added water. But here's the thing, we don't know, because until the 1970s, they didn't even have to label pet food to tell us what was in there, right? But now, you know, farmer's dog, just food for dogs, food gets delivered every day for your dog. You know, we have swung to the point where even store-bought dry food, which is what my dog eats, is such better quality, is enriched with the right vitamins, is balanced for their diet, so it's not going to make them overweight, that it has dramatically improved their lives. So they're not reliant on scraps. If you don't have scraps, the dog doesn't eat, right? And then, of course, did I miss veterinary care? Did I go past it? Huh, I must have lost the slide. But we're spending more on healthcare, right? And treatments, and on pretty much everything else in the animal's life. In fact, 2021, $123.6 billion in pet-related products. What company do you think makes the most animal products in the country? Mars M&M Candy. Mars M&M Candy is the largest provider of veterinary care. VCA hospitals, Mars M&M Candy. Banfield Hospital, Mars M&M Candy. Eukanuba Food, Mars M&M. Kitten Caboodle, Mars M&M. They understood decades ago that the pet industry is recession-proof. Every economic downturn has hit every segment except pet care, pet health, and pet food. To the point that even in 2002, when researchers said to individuals, they said that they would give a hard-to-get life-saving medicine to their pet over a family member. I'm that person. You know, she cut her leg on a barbed wire in Siskiyou County at 5:15 in the afternoon on a Friday. The state of veterinary care right now is there are no vets north of Reading or south of Medford open after 5 p.m. on Friday until 9 a.m. Monday. So I drove 90 miles to Medford, Oregon, got there 7 o'clock in the evening. She wasn't seen until 3 in the morning, so I had to get a hotel room. She got 6 stitches for $1,000, and then I drove back. You know, and I'm reminded, A, there is no college fund for her. So I was very okay with that decision. But B, that I'm very fortunate that I could afford to do all of that for my dog, where other people just cannot. But yeah, I would totally give her the life-saving medicine. Or the $3,600 Coach bag. Because when we look at those billions of dollars are being spent, the luxury market for animals, wouldn't she look great in that? She'd look great in that bag. Are you kidding me? That is literally a $3,600 Coach bag. It did, easiest internet search, luxury pet carrier. Boop. Oh, I'm sorry, that's Gucci. Yeah. The Coach one, not so much. But here's the thing, by being better to them, it's really, 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 really paid off for us to have these animals in our lives. It just has. Mental health, anxiety, stress, depression, even Alzheimer's and dementias. Having that animal just makes your life better. My worst day at work, I still get to go home. And my dog doesn't know it's my worst day. It's their best day. I could walk out to the mailbox and come back, and the greeting is the same as if I had been gone for 3 weeks, because the love that they give us, right, helps with all of that. It also helps with our physical health. We walk miles every day because they really want to walk, and it's good for me. So it keeps me trimmer. It's great for my cardiovascular. Everything about it. Every time your doctor says get in your steps, my steps because of my dogs are about 15,000 a day, right? So forget the 3,000, forget the 10,000, right? But because I have these dogs and they're very active dogs, even in their advanced age, they really love to walk. And cancer, quality of life, pain management, especially cats for pain management. Oh my gosh, cats for pain management. Huge, 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 huge thing. People in pain who have that cat in their lap. You ask them, what, 1 to 10, it's an 8, give them the cat, 5 minutes later, 4, right? It's just, they refocus their attention away from themselves onto this cat who's giving them all the love back. Their stress level goes down. When your stress level goes down, your pain levels go down, right? Because you're also releasing serotonin. You're also releasing all of these other drugs into your system that are calming you down and addressing that pain issue. And then dogs in early detection of cancer, the progress made there, diabetes, cancer, it's just amazing what dogs and their sense of smell and their loyalty to us, right? Their commitment to us, their bond with us makes them so attuned. And I mean, who's here has had a bad day and your dog is really sort of hugging you a little closer, right? Your cat's hanging out a little longer because they know, right? They are attuned to us. They are keenly aware. And the benefit they give us, both mental, physical, and treating pain is it's such a gift. It just really is. And because here's the thing, I love them so much, right? Why do I love them so much? I know why they love me so much. I got this genetic, I won't call it a defect, but they have this genetic disposition and they're full of this hormone. But it really is about this human attachment that we have. We have it to each other, right? We make these attachments, a source of comfort, seeking them out when distressed, feeling enjoyment in their presence, visiting with an old friend. Got a bad day, you'll call your best friend. Things are instantly better. These are the same features of our relationships with our pets too. They just so enrich our life because we love them and they love us. The challenge becomes how much more their loss affects us, quite often more than the loss of a human. I've certainly experienced, I would imagine many of you have experienced that same thing. And did you ever wonder why it just felt so much harder, so much worse? It just, a dear friend of mine, when she lost her dog, Penny, the best description I've ever heard, she said, Penny was a silent witness to my life. She was always there, big events, small events, she was always there. She never judged. She just was there, and now she is not there. She's just not there. The challenge that that psychologists have found is what they call disenfranchised grief, because it's hard to say to someone who's lost their grandmother, oh, I know how you feel. My dog Zed died last year. And they look at you like, what's wrong with you, right? And because of that, that we feel really, this pressure we feel to sort of dismiss or downplay those emotions means we grieve it longer and harder because we're not dealing with it, because we don't feel it's often appropriate, or others make us feel that is not appropriate to deal with that grief. I tell you, I moved here in 2016 with my 2 dogs, Zed and Max. We moved here in June. Max, who was the younger, he was 8, died in November and just broke our hearts. And Zed, our 12-year-old, died 4 months later. And I have to tell you, it was devastating to us. It's still devastating. 7 years later, we thought we're not going to get dogs anytime soon. And then, there we are. but it's this lack of understanding and social support makes what we feel harder to process. And that's just human nature. And so when I tell people it's different, psychologists have said, yes, actually, it is different, right? It is different. But you know what? They suffer too. They suffer from your loss when their human passes. My first experiences when I started at the Southern Oregon Humane Society as the first time I was really professionally working in animal welfare. My first week, we intook a Old English Bulldog, also a genetic nightmare, I might add, who was completely shut down. His name was Sherman, completely shut down, wouldn't eat, was just huddled in the back of his kennel, and he broke my heart. His human had been in a car accident and died, right? He was in the house overnight. Family member went over. They couldn't take him, so they brought him to us. So he has zero concept of what had happened to his human, zero. All he knew was this dramatic change in his living, but also the loss of his love. So studies back this up. They looked at the different behavior, and 65% of cats experienced 4 or more behavioral changes after loss of a family pet, right? Of another pet in the house. And those markers would be eating less, sleeping more, hanging onto you, being closer to you, vocalizing. Cats, 95% of cats vocalize more when another animal or a human in the house has died. And this is an interesting, everything is interesting to me. I hear how much I'm saying that. Because when Max died, my first dog, my 8-year-old, we asked ourselves, should we bring Zed in so he sees that Max is dead, so that he will know, like that he will just instinctively know, oh, that's a dead animal. That used to be Max. Okay. And we decided not to. And Zed was always looking for Max, right? He would like go to the door. He seemed like he was always, granted, we could be anthropomorphizing. We tend to do that with animals. But the studies show that it doesn't matter if he had seen Max dead or not. They did the studies both ways. The behaviors didn't change. Same rate of loss, same instance of the vocalizing, of the sleeping in the other animal's bed is very, very, very common when one pet dies in the household, or sleeping on the bed, or getting in the closet where that person's clothes are. Very, very, especially for cats. And this is, by the way, Zed. He was my first Carolina dog. He's just the best dog ever. Shh. So yeah, so to me, it was really interesting to have sort of the validation of my feelings when I lost Zed, but also Zed's feelings when he lost Max. And that's all part and parcel of this bond that we have and we've created and we've fostered. Despite ways that we might have screwed it up, there's so many ways that we just got it right. And these animals still so dependent on us. People say, well, cats, can just semi-domesticated. That's not really fair to the cats. I think if you've been an indoor cat all your life and suddenly you're dumped outside, you're not going to know the rules. Where's the food? I don't hear the can opener, right? All these things that say I'm hungry and something will happen good are not happening. So I don't buy into the semi-domesticated things. So what are our challenges in continuing to honor that bond? And I hit it a little hard because it's the industry as I'm in, as I deal with so many animals who were bred for specific things, like being a husky, and are now living in an apartment in San Francisco or in Sacramento, right? And something's changed, and that husky's not doing well in that home because he's a husky and he really needs things to do. He's a German Shepherd. He needs a job. He's a Walker Coonhound and he really needs to tree things, right? So the biggest challenge is this continued popularity based on culture. Our shelter, not just ours, but all the shelters in California are full of German Shepherds and Huskies. Many days they far outnumber far outnumber the pit bulls and chihuahuas we have. There is nothing, well, maybe something, nothing cuter than an 8-week-old husky puppy. They're stuffed animals. They're just so cute. There's nothing worse than an 18-month-old husky who's just bored and will literally eat. If you put him in this room and you're in that room and the door is closed, he will eat through the drywall to get to you. He will just literally eat through the drywall to get you because he's so connected. He just wants to be with you. German Shepherds bond so closely to their humans there. They do so poorly in a shelter environment. They just are not. Pit bulls do much better in a shelter environment than German Shepherds. I'd say the two worst breeds in a shelter, Weimaraners and Dobermans. Very, 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 very human attached. So the challenge is if we keep doing this breeding for popularity. This is a blue-eyed merled French bulldog. So cute. I guarantee you, it can't breathe. Its nostrils are too small. It'll have skin infections, ear infections, eye infections, all within its first year. Do you know how many French bulldogs? We get a French bulldog a week now coming into the shelter because people get them. The vet bills are so high that it's crazy how many French bulldogs we get. Next up, I guarantee you, is corgis. We're starting to see corgis this time next year. I'll say we get so many corgis. They have been bred to the point that they actually can't breed naturally. Artificial insemination, cesarean birth, brutal life for a breeding mother of a French bulldog. And everything they selected to get down to blue eyes and merle just brought all of the wrong selections. It's like a white cat with one blue eye and green eye, death. Always. Dalmatians, death. Always, because the breeding for the white coat with black spots carried the marker for deafness with it. So as we continue to breed for this look, we create challenges for animals who can't have a normal life. A pug cannot have a normal life. It's a shorter life than other small dogs. Running hard, they'll collapse. They almost always die of cardiac arrest because of cardiovascular problems. So that challenge remains as we continue to really deal with popularity of breeds. The other issue is that veterinary shortage. How many people have tried to get your vet in the last year? Have you had difficulty? And have the prices gone up? So there's a reason for that. There is a huge vet shortage that is not going to peak until 2030. Boomers like me are retiring out, right? We're not backfilling at the same rate. There's up to a 2 to 3 year wait to get into a veterinary college. They can't just double the amount of students they graduate because you have to have the teachers, you have to have the classrooms, you have to have so many more things. So that's created this shortage. In urban areas, 77% say their household pet has never seen a veterinarian. And we run a low-cost clinic, and I have to tell you, that is the absolute truth. When we get that animal vaccination, it's the first time it's ever seen a vet. In rural California, Siskiyou County, remember, after 5 o'clock on a Friday, forget it. 14 California counties are ranked in the bottom 25% on the veterinary care accessibility score, which means they're extremely limited or unable to access a vet in their county. Overall score for California. California has more than 10% of all registered veterinarians in the nation. Remember, 1 of 50 states, we have 10% of all registered vets. And our score out of 100 is 47. Kansas and Nebraska score better for access to veterinary care because even though we have the largest share of them, we have the largest population, we have the largest animals. And in the rural areas, trying to find a vet who can earn a lucrative career in a city to move out to Etna, California, up in Siskiyou County, not going to happen. And the other is Cornell 2021 said 72% of people feel like they can't afford veterinary care, at least some, because veterinary care costs have risen faster than human care cost over the last 5 years. And regardless of cost, this is the 2022 study done by Mars M&M, who employs more vets than anyone else, forecast a shortage of 15,000 vets by 2030. So we haven't even, as bad as the shortage is now, we haven't hit it yet. So by continuing to breed and select for unhealthy traits in dogs, and then also not having access to veterinary care, I think is the biggest threat to that human animal bond, right? We asked them in. We said, come to the fire. We said, protect us. We said, hunt the rodents. They're like, okay, but you got to honor your part of this deal. And these are the challenges that are really forcing that. So yeah, I love it. Weimaraner. Wonderful dogs, needy dogs, needy dogs. So let's take some questions here.
Thank you so much for your presentation. I have not ever heard the part about the breeds, and yet, they are a pain in the neck. Have you made an attempt to publicize this to get it to be socially unacceptable to buy a dog that's not going to have a life?
Lady Gaga has 2 French bulldogs when they were stolen, and remember the sensation about that. I can't compete with Lady Gaga, right? So we talk about it a lot. We've talked about, so when these breeds come into us, and they are the English bulldog, the French bulldog, pug, what else? We do surgeries. We clip the palate because it's too long. We enlarge the nares. Cherry eye is really common. We fix the cherry eye. In addition to spaying neutering, we like try to address the problems we know this dog is going to face all its life to try to get it into better health. But I guess until Heinz 57 dogs. I mean, listen, I love Carolina dogs, and they're purebreds, right? I got her from a shelter. I bought my first one because it was years before I was in animal welfare, and I didn't know. I didn't know that whatever dog I wanted, I could find somewhere in a shelter. And now that I do, that's how I found Siki and Vernie. So I think that even when people are adopting a French bulldog, we try to counsel them to say, there will be problems here. It's a cute dog. They're loving, they're loyal, they're dogs, right? We just can't compete with Facebook and Instagram and social media about what's the cutest thing out there right now, right? I mean, Beverly Hills Chihuahua, we all saw it, right? We all saw it. Yes.
So you said something that now has me very worried.
Good. I mean, good.
We've owned dogs all of our adult lives, and we travel periodically, like I suspect most of the people here do. And we find some wonderful places to board them, and really we're very careful about that. But your notion about separation anxiety, I always tell my wife the dog doesn't remember a day later. He's just in the kennel. Don't worry about it. But it sounds like we should be worried about it.
I think you should think about it. I don't think you should be worried about it. I was having a conversation. I had a Cocker Spaniel who loved the veterinarian, and he loved the veterinarian because of Robin at the front desk just would make such a big fuss over him that when we would just say, we're going to the vet, and he would run to the car. He would run to the car. And the vet also did boarding. So when we boarded him, we knew he got his daily dose of Robin, and that made him very, very happy. If we were to just randomly select a place, so when you're thinking about boarding, we do the opposite of the boarding. The very few times we've left the dogs, we had someone come stay at our house. So our smells are still there, right? When you do board, it's like I tell people, if your dog accidentally gets out, take your oldest T-shirt that you wear all the time from the dirty laundry and put it on the front steps, because they're going to follow the smell, right? They smell that, now they know where home is. So if you do board, do the same thing, right? Just say, here's his bed, don't wash it, or here's this shirt, don't wash it. And think about the things that dogs or cats really react to. For dogs, it smells more than anything, and give them that while they're there. Yes, I wouldn't worry about it because you vetted the place, right? You went in, you saw the place. The first time you got the dogs back, they weren't traumatized, right? So you already did the right things.
Yes, I understand that not only is there a shortage of veterinarians, but also of veterinarian schools, that there's something like 38 accredited schools in the mainland United States and only 2 in California
Yep.
for 40 million people. And I asked at UC Davis how many students they graduated. They couldn't give me that number, but they did give me the number of, they matriculate 150 students a year. This does
150.
not compute in any way, shape, or form with 40 million California residents and their pets. Add to that, and I would like to follow on with a question on this. Well, 2 questions. One is there any move to create more veterinary schools, A? And then B, all of those veterinarians include large animal veterinarians and the veterinarians that service all of the beef, cattle, and all of the chickens, all up and down I-5. And
research
is there any
labs, all of
crossover
that, yeah.
between large animal and small animal veterinarians? And I guess I'll add a third thing.
Okay, well,
It's-
first question is, are more schools coming along online? Second question, crossover from large vet to small, okay? Try to keep it straight.
I got it.
And what's the third one?
Okay, now I'm forgetting.
I'll start in the first 2 while because it'll come to you in a second. How many people worked in academia? Okay, how fast does that move? Right, so that's our first challenge. You just can't start up a vet school overnight. You need vets to teach the classes at a time when there is a vet shortage. You need money to build the facilities, that you need large labs, you need operating rooms, you need all of the infrastructure you need to do that. We believe a better route is to take the RVTs, which are the RNs of the veterinary world, and educate them up to do more in a veterinary setting. We were the proud sponsor and got into law, SB 669, which finally allows an RVT who's been the person giving your animal their vaccination always to actually do that without having a vet looking over her shoulder to say, yep, that's a dog. Now you can vaccinate that animal. There's talk about trying to get a physician's assistant level program going. My fear is if we try to do that in the veterinary school world, it will take far too long. I think we need to do it in the RVT world and say, can an RVT go back to school and learn how to neuter a cat, right? Can they do routine? I mean, there's things you absolutely have to have that vet who's got all of that skill set. You want them there, right? You want them. But if we only have so many vets, what do we want them doing? We want them looking at critical cases. We want them doing advanced treatment. We want them doing the research that's going to make animals' lives better. We don't need them to do your routine vaccinations. We don't need them to do your annual exam. We don't need them to run the diagnostics on the fecal sample, right? So I think that if we can provide more opportunities to RVTs, by the way, when we talk about 10,000 vets in California, because a scary number, there's only 100,000 registered vets in the United States. 11,000 of them are in California, but there's only 8,000 registered vet techs in California, less than 1 per vet. And in most practice, you need 2 RVTs for every 1 vet in order to make things run smoothly. So we're facing all of those challenges. So do I expect more vet schools to come online? I do not. Do I hope that more vet schools start focusing on shelter medicine, high volume spay neuter, small animal clinics? Yes, I do. I do hope so. People who go into large animal love large animals. It's what they do. They know everything about birthing a calf. Ask them to spay a cat and they're like, I don't even know where to start with that. So very little crossover. Yeah. And yes, I think that is the smarter route. RVTs leave the industry after 8 years. They leave the industry because they're so burnt out, because they're asked to do so much with so little resources and they're underpaid. Yes.
What about redesigning a vet school? So these students specialize in small animals at the very outset. My daughter is a vet. She's learned how to
What's her
dissect
number?
a cow, and I mean, she just, streamlining the vet school process to make it more specific from the outset. Would that increase the number of schools available for students that are interested?
No, because we're still dealing with that. I wonder if streamlining the service providing, it's just like these are, my dog's needs other than stitches are pretty limited. But I go to a full service vet. Can we start creating alternatives in the marketplace that allows me to get her routine stuff done quickly and easily and more affordably, rather than going to a full service vet who's expected to have digital x-rays, ultrasound, all the lab equipment that she just will not need. But that's all overhead for a vet that gets reflected into the cost of what they have to charge, right? I know the vet schools are talking about it. Do I think that by 2030, there'll be more vet schools? I do not. Do I think that we'll be closer to more vet schools? I hope. So, and people go into veterinarian medicine for very different reasons. What we found is the things vets tend to like the least, and your daughter may be an exception, is dealing with people, right? So when you're dealing with large animals, you're dealing with herd health, you're dealing with a farmer. When you run a clinic, you're dealing with 20 different humans and 20 different animals. And that's why they leave the business, right? And so one of the ways we've been able to attract vets to come work for us is like, I'm the client, right? And I always say yes, right? If it needs a, let's just do that. So they're able to do what they love to do, which is help animals, right? Yeah.
Got two questions from Zoom people. First one is, what is the right age for a child to have a dog?
Well, it's going to depend on the dog and the child. I mean, it's just as simple as that. I think when we counsel people who are coming in, we're about to have a baby and we want to get a puppy and we wanted them to grow up together, I count to 10 and I'm like, who told you that was a good idea? You should have had the puppy first, because it would have helped you decide if you wanted a child. Seriously, it just would. So I think that if you've got, if your child is a very quiet, reserved child, as many kids are, an active puppy might make them more active. That's your goal. I guess, what's the goal? What do you want to achieve for the child, but also for the animal, right? And when I look at service animals who just perform great things, they need to be the type of animal who's going to enjoy that, right? It's like, imagine a Great Dane as your service animal, right? Probably not going to walk as much as this kid does, because Great Danes are lazy. That's why they're the perfect New York. So yeah.
This is the last question today. She says, I'm a single person with one dog. Is she better off with another pet in the home? Does it matter if it's a dog or a cat?
It's a good question. And it's really about the dog, right? If she comes home and the dog is going crazy, it means it probably was lacking interaction during its day. And so, yeah, I would think about, let's add another animal. I would always start with another dog with the dog before I would start with a cat with the dog, because you don't know what the dog's going to do with the cat, and that's not fair to the cat, right? It's just not fair to that cat. So, it's interesting because Vernie and Siki were adopted out as a bonded pair, and we see this all the time. Oh, they're a bonded pair. No, they are not. They clearly were from the same pack. They were trapped on the same day. They shared a kennel because they thought it was a bonded pair. Siki is having the time of her life right now. She's at home. She gets all the attention. She gets to run around. If there's a squirrel, she thinks she's going to catch it, more so than Vern would, because Vern's not there to try to take it, right? Vern, I don't think, is missing her at all. At all. So it really is about, I would ask myself, when I come home, is the dog happy to see me? It looks like it's, it's not showing any signs of anxiety. It's not whining. It's not peeing on the carpet because it's so excited to see me. It's probably doing okay. If it's exhibiting some of those behaviors or really wants your attention, notice me, notice me, notice me. Yeah, I'm going to say it probably needs a friend to help keep it stimulated through the day because it just got bored. If it's exhibiting bored behavior, chewing, scratching, eating the sofa, eating your shoes, yeah, it probably could use a playmate who will then eat both your shoes. Do you know why dogs eat shoes? It's the piece of clothing you sweat the most in. Yeah, they're like getting as close to you as they can. Oh, I could just eat you up, right? And I'll settle for your shoes.
Oh, well,
Other
Ken,
questions? Yeah.
Ken, this was just absolutely fantastic. We've been looking forward to this for so long. And in honor of your retirement and in honor of your coming here today, we would like to give you a membership in our Renaissance Society. And since you're retiring, you should be able to use it, right?
I love that. I love that. Thank you so very much.
We also make a cash donation in your name and your honor to the Seth Nelson Emergency Grant Fund. So
Awesome. Awesome.
thank you.
Thank you for
very
doing
much.
that.